Hi, everyone, and welcome to this masterclass on how to generate more leads and sales for your business with personal branding and content. This is one of my favorite topics because I love personal branding and talking about content marketing, especially on Instagram. So before we get started on today's content, let me introduce myself really quickly. I'm Molly. I am the founder of Molly Host Studio, and I am a digital product and course coach, strategist, designer, and educator. So I do a lot in my business. I am also a podcaster, content creator, and marketer. So I create a lot of content for Instagram. I've created content for Pinterest. I've created content, well, now for my podcast. So I've created a lot of content. And I've been using the internet since the age of 8. And I've been using content a long time to create online connections and relationships for years now. So I'm super excited to be talking about this topic. I feel like content is one of the things that I see a lot of people overcomplicating, overthinking. And today I want to show you how easy it is to create content that helps you not only generate more leads and sales, but also make sure that you get the right leads and sales and the people that you really enjoy working with and want in your community, right? So today we will be talking about what is personal branding, why does it matter, and what will it do for your business? We're also going to be talking about how to build that know, like, and trust factor that I'm sure you've all heard of with branding and content creation, the different ways that we can separate ourselves from others in our industry and also make us more memorable. And then the 4 types of content to help you build a deeper relationship with your ideal clients, customers, and so on. Okay. And I also created a workbook for you guys. So make sure to go fill that out after this masterclass, or you can fill it out while watching this masterclass. Okay, so let's talk about personal branding. What is it and why does it matter? So this is how I like to think of personal branding. It's really about how other people think of us, right? It's the image that we build for other people. So when you think about your friends or when you think about your family members, you probably have some kind of like thoughts around who they are based on their interaction with you, based on like their communication style, what they say, their thoughts, their beliefs, etc. So it's also about how we make other people feel like when they land on our Instagram, on our website, or meet us in person, right? So when someone meets us for the first time, maybe you have a coffee chat with someone in person, based on how they dress or how they look or how they carry themselves or present themselves, they probably make you feel a certain way, right? The same thing when you land on someone's Instagram or website. And that's why we're talking about personal branding and content on your Instagram today, because when people land on your Instagram page, that makes them say, okay, I really like this person. I want to learn more about them. I think that they can help me. Or maybe they'll land on your page and they're like, no, this isn't the person for me. So it's like, what kind of message are we sending to that other person who is landing on our Instagram and our website about ourselves, our business, how we do business, again, how we carry ourselves. And it helps them decide whether or not they want to stick around. And I know that a lot of business owners will be like, I want to help everyone. And while that's great, and while I want to help everyone as well, I'm not going to be everyone's cup of tea, right? And when I water myself down to please everyone, then that means that I can't fully show up as myself for the people that will resonate with me. And so that's the same thing with you, right? When you go through this masterclass, I want you to think about, who do you want to be helping, right? Not just collecting a bunch of leads, but also who you want to be helping in your business and why. So, also another thing that I want to talk about is like, don't overthink this. If you're like me, you probably want it to be perfect. You want to have the perfect image. You want to have the perfect brand, but your brand is going to evolve and shift over time as you evolve and shift over time. Like, you're probably not the same person you were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or maybe even last year, right? And so instead of trying to show up as this perfect person, to show up as you are right now, on your Instagram, because people want to see that, especially like in this time of age, like people want to see who you are. And so by creating that personal brand, you're creating a way for people to remember who you are. You're not just like another real estate agent anymore. You're that real estate agent that they connect with, or you're not just like another hairstylist. But they've gone to know like what you like to do on the weekends or what you like to do when you're not working, and they connect with that, right? So it's really important that we attract the right people for our business, because when we attract the right people for our business, we're going to enjoy showing up to our business more. And it's also going to help you build that know, like, and trust factor, which does lead to more qualified leads and sales for your business. And at the end of the day, like, we buy from people we like, right? We buy from brands that we support, brands that have values that we align with. And in order for people to feel comfortable with wanting to work with you or wanting to buy from you, they need to be comfortable and confident in knowing like who you are. And one of my favorite ways to do that is through content, because with content I can tell people who I am, and I like letting other people decide whether or not they want to stick around. Like, maybe some people look at my content and they won't resonate with it at all, and that's okay. It took me a while to be okay with that, because in the beginning of my own business I was like, I just, I want everyone to like me. I want to help everyone, I want to work with everyone. But over time I've realized that there are some people that I like working with more so than others. And if I'm not the person for them, that's okay, because there's a lot of people out there that could help them. Okay, so let's talk about how we can build that know, like, and trust with your content. So, how to set yourself apart and attract the right people with your content. Okay, so here are a few different ways that you can differentiate yourself from the other people that are out there, right? So number one is your personality. What is your personality like? Is it fun and bubbly? Is it more professional? Is it like laid back and down to earth? So that's one of the ways that we can separate ourselves from the other people. Also, our energy, right? How we carry ourselves. So when you meet certain people, like, you can tell that, you know, not that they're necessarily loud, but maybe their like energy and personality is loud, or maybe it feels super inviting, or maybe it feels like more down to earth and you feel like you can relax around them a little bit and you can kind of let your guard down. Communication styles. So we all have different types of communication styles, right? Some people are more straightforward, some people are very like direct and to the point, whereas maybe other people, they, like having context and telling the backstory. So, deciding, like, knowing what kind of person you are and what your communication style is, and is the person, like, the person that you want to be helping and the person who wants your help, they're going to resonate with your communication style, right? They're going to resonate with your personality. Like, whenever, um, say like I call customer service for something, or say I walk into the store, I can kind of tell like what their personality is like, what their communication style is like. I either go to like one customer or one employee or the other employee based on what I see, right? So those are some ways that we are different from other people. Another way that we can separate ourselves from other people is by sharing our story and life experiences in our content, which is one of the things that we're talking about today. So the things in bold are the things that we're talking about more in depth today. Our values, this one is really important, like knowing what your values are, so your audience can decide whether or not they align with you. And if they align with your values, they're more likely going to want to work with you, right? Your beliefs, your interests, and your lifestyle. So when you think about it, like, we all have different lifestyles. Some people like being very adventurous, and other people are homebodies, and some people are somewhere in the middle. So by sharing your lifestyle in your content, the other person gets to know you, and like attracts like. So when you share your lifestyle and all of these things, you're going to attract the people that are like you. And so that's why that's important. Okay, so let's talk about the different types of content because there are different types of content that we can do. So there's imagery, like, right? So photos of yourself, photos of what you're doing, these are still photos. And then there's videos. So for example, this presentation is a video, your IGTV is a video, your Instagram stories is a video. Your IG reels are videos, audio. So that's like podcasts or a phone call, right? And then there's written like Instagram posts, emails, blog posts. Those are all written content and in combination. So maybe for example, you're hearing my voice, you're seeing my face, and you have this presentation. So that's kind of a combination of content. And you want to find out like what kind of content style works best for you. Do you enjoy talking to people? You know, because some people don't enjoy talking to people, right? If you enjoy talking and being on camera, then I think that IGTVs and Instagram stories would work really well for you. But for example, maybe you really enjoy writing content, then you can do more Instagram posts, right? You can write in your Instagram posts, maybe you write emails, things like that. Um, and then also like knowing if you like talking to people, then you can also send voice memos when you're having a conversation with someone in the DMs, right? Or maybe you are a visual person and the person that you want to be helping is also a visual person. Having that video, it might be the reason that they want to talk to you, right? Which means that you're generating more leads and sales for your business. Okay, so let's talk about storytelling. And this is one of my favorite topics because I really believe that by sharing your story, it builds a deeper connection. It's more meaningful. Um, there's that connection. It makes you more relatable and it also makes you more human, right? So um, by the end of this lesson, I want you to write down 3 to 5 stories that have shaped you, have helped you become who you are, and also write like how that's relatable to the person you're talking to, right? Because when you think about it, the people that you talk to in your life, like whether it's friends or whether people that are already your clients, they probably have chosen to work with you because they've gotten to know you and you have probably shared a story or two about you with them and that built a deeper trust, right? Or when they share their story with you, you feel like you know more about them and they're no longer just another person or just another friend or just another client, right? You know more about why they are the way they are. And it's just, yeah. You also want to think about like the message you're sending. Maybe there's like a lesson or a takeaway that you want to share with them in your caption when you're writing storytelling posts. So let me give you a few examples of my stories. So these are some stories that I share in my own content. So story number 1 about how I didn't go to college. And it's not that I'm trying to attract people who didn't go to college, but it's that story of how I can share that, hey, I have struggled with money. I have struggled with my confidence. And this is how, right? So for example, I might share my story about how I didn't go to college because I didn't apply for any colleges because number 1, I was afraid of not being accepted into any colleges, which ties into confidence. And also I was scared to spend that money. So it ties into my struggle with money. And I use this story because I know that the person that's reading that post is probably struggling with money and or confidence. So, story number 2 might be like my story about how I started my business after working at my last job, right? And I can talk about how I built resilience over time. I can talk about like before I started my business, I used to be the kind of person that gave up easily or gave up a lot. Or I can share my story about like how my business has really taught me to be more patient with myself and more patient with the journey and other people, right? Or I can talk about the different ways that I've invested in my business and the ways that it has helped me and also the lessons that I have learned. So within each story, you can also share like multiple lessons, right? It doesn't just have to be just one lesson and one story. And so when you're writing your stories down in your workbook, you can be like, okay, this is lesson number one, lesson number two, lesson number three. And so you can kind of create a mind map and come up with different content ideas. So, along with sharing that story about how I started my own business, I can also talk about like how I struggled to believe in myself and then how I believed in myself after. And all of these things that I came up with, like believing in yourself, not giving up, learning patience, I talk about these things because I know that the people that I want to help, like my ideal customers and clients, they struggle with these things. So when you're writing your stories, you want to think about, okay, the person that I want to be helping, what are they struggling with right now? You know, are they struggling with money? Are they struggling with believing in themselves? Um, are they struggling with like imagining what their future could look like? You know, and then think about, okay, what are the times in my life that I have been in their position, and how can I show them that I have been where they are and that they're not alone and I understand them, right? So another story that I can talk about is how I went to go travel on my own and how I learned to be my own person and be independent, because before I went to go travel on my own, I lived at home and I was very codependent on other people in my life. And with that story, I can also create another content post about how I fulfilled my dream of always wanting to travel, right? And that then I can, in that content like caption, I can write about, you know, how your dreams don't have to stay dreams, they can become a reality. Another message I can write is about like, you know, um I had it and then I lost it. But my point is that if you can, again, you can do that mind map and then you can create multiple content ideas from that one idea. So with these four stories, you know, I can come up with like 20 different caption ideas, right? You don't just have to stick with like one lesson per story. Story number four about moving into my first apartment, which is where I'm actually recording this from. And I can talk about like my struggles with how I saw myself beforehand and how I envisioned myself, or how I envisioned this apartment before it actually came true, right? And so maybe that relates to my customer because maybe they have this certain image of themselves and they know something else is possible. They know that, you know, maybe they have their own dream of traveling, or maybe they have their own dream of not being codependent on other people anymore, or they have a dream of, you know, creating their own course. Then I can share that story to relate to whatever situation they're going on in their own life, right? So think about like what kind of stories that you can share. And I also wrote down some caption starters because I know that sometimes people struggle with like, how do I start the caption? So here are four ways I can start your Instagram caption. Maybe you say like X number of years ago, I was, so for example, 4 years ago, I was working at a job that I wasn't feeling aligned with. And then for me, I would go on to write about how it affected my confidence, self-worth, you know, why I left and how I changed my life around. And to end it how they can too. So, you know, the caption isn't really about me, it's about them, right? So this is where I was, but really the story is about you and how you can change your life too if you're not feeling aligned with where you are in your life. So the post is really about them. um, Another way that you can start your caption is saying like, do you ever feel like, you know, do you ever feel like you're constantly running on a hamster wheel? If so, I can relate. Or if so, I've totally been there. And write about here's how, and share with them like how you can help them get off the hamster wheel. Or I didn't always think that I could do this. Or like there was a time in my life when I didn't believe in myself. And maybe they're at a point in their life where they're struggling to believe in themselves, right? So that's how I would start out with my caption. So I would say, okay, there was a time I didn't believe in myself. It was when I was working at my old job and I stayed there because I didn't think that I could get anything else. And I could say, like, maybe you've been feeling that way too. Maybe you're currently feeling stuck in your life. And then I can go on to kind of say specifics, like maybe you're feeling stuck in your corporate job, or maybe you're feeling stuck in how you're running your business right now, and I can say like there's another way, and then here's the way. So another reminder that it doesn't have to be perfect. I know that when we're thinking of our Instagram content sometimes, and even after years of creating content, I still struggle with this sometimes. It doesn't have to be perfect. Really, you want to think about it, like, let's reframe it and think of it as an opportunity for them to like get to know you, right? To build that relationship. Because in order for someone to feel comfortable and confident buying from you, they have to feel like they know, like, and trust you. And content is one of my favorite ways to do it. So action step, write down 3 to 5 stories that have shaped you, that you feel like, okay, these are the lessons that I can share with my audience. Okay, so the second thing that we're going to be talking about are values. So we want to be sharing our values because we want to be attracting people who share similar values, right? Like if we look around at the people in our lives, or at least when I look at the people in my life, I would say that a lot of my friends share similar values that I do, or a lot of my ideal clients and customers. Like when I talk to my actual clients and customers, I know that they've chosen to work with me because I share my values, because I share what's important to me, and they have something similar, right? And so, for example, my values are financial independence, security, and stability, um, time freedom and flexibility, self-awareness and growth, transparency and honesty, belonging, and community. So I'm going to go more in depth into how I can incorporate these values into my content, but I want you to think about like what are some of your values and how is that reflected in your life and your business, right? And how is that going to be reflected in your content so that when people are reading your content or looking at your content, it can be like, oh, these are her values. Not even saying like these are her values, but they just kind of get it, right? So, for example, if I'm sharing how I'm at the park on a Tuesday afternoon, maybe I'm not exactly saying, time freedom is one of my values, but maybe the other person is looking at my Instagram stories and they're thinking, ooh, I would really like to be at the park on a Tuesday afternoon too, or I would really like to take some time off right now, but I have to be working. So just an example, but okay, so say, for example, value number 1 is financial independence, security, and stability. So I might talk about how I'm just taking the day off just because I want to, right? Because my business is doing okay and I can take the day off. Or I can buy things that bring me joy without feeling anxious because I know that past me, I would have bought things or done things and felt anxious over them because I used to be in a feast and famine like money mindset, right? And so there are different ways that you can showcase your values, or I might be doing things for self care. And okay, so value number 2, time freedom and flexibility. So again, we can talk about why we value time freedom and flexibility. So for example, maybe you go on Instagram stories and you spent some time with your family yesterday, and so you go on stories the next day and talk about how important that is to you to be able to spend that time with your family or your friends, or with yourself, having the time to spend with yourself. And the person who is watching that on the other side, maybe they resonate with that, right? They want more time to, maybe they don't want more time to spend time with other people, but maybe they want to spend more time with themselves. Maybe they wish they had more time to like journal or get a massage or, just take the day off. And so that's why we want to be sharing these things, but also knowing our values so that we can say, okay, this is how I can demonstrate my value in my Instagram stories or my posts. Okay, so value number 3 for me personally is self-awareness and growth. And this is how I share it, how I share that it's important to me. So I talk a lot about my journey of being a business owner and an entrepreneur. Like I share both the good and the bad because as we all know, it's not all like sunshine and rainbows, right? There are both highs and lows. And not only do I share like the good and bad, I also talk about like how I'm making adjustments to my life, how I'm incorporating more self-care into my life, right? How I'm spending more time journaling and reading and um, going outside into sunlight. So for example, if I'm journaling, I can do a time lapse. I can put my phone right there and then I can do a time lapse or I can take a picture. Or if I'm going outside, maybe I just do a quick video of me like walking around. Um, so these are simple ways that we can incorporate our values into our content. It doesn't have to be like super created. It doesn't have to be super perfect. We can just share our life with the people that we want to work with. So value number 4, transparency and honesty. So how I do this in my content is that I talk about the mistakes that I've made, the struggles that I've been through and things like that, because I know that the people that I work with, they value that, right? They don't want to just hear about the good things. They want to hear, oh, she's made mistakes too, but here's how she's overcome them, or here's what she's has struggled with. And she doesn't pretend that she doesn't struggle with anything. And so not only does it help them, but it helps me as well because I want to attract a certain kind of client or customer, right? I don't want to attract the kind of person who only wants me to tell them good things all the time. I want someone who wants to know that other people have both good and bad days. So for me personally, I would be really exhausted if people expected me to show up, and not that I'm like complaining or venting or anything, but I'm just saying, hey, here was how my week went, and here's what I did, and here's what I learned, and instead of saying, oh yeah, everything is great all the time. And so that's also why it's important for you to know your values, because based on my experience and based on what I've seen from other people's experience, I think we end up working with people that we don't like working with when we don't know what our values are, because then we end up like working with anyone. And then when we end up working with anyone, chances are you're going to work with someone who doesn't share the same values as you. And so there's going to be like a miscommunication and a clash, right? And so that's where that comes in. So if you aren't sure what your values are, I Googled values, but this is from Brene Brown. So if you Google like values, Brene Brown, you'll find this list. I also included it in the workbook, so you can find it there as well. So look through this list and like really look through this list, take some time. And the great thing about this is that you can also apply these values to your life if you haven't like thought about what your values are. Okay, so the third thing that we want to be putting into our content is our beliefs, right? So again, we want to be sharing our beliefs because we want to attract the people who have the same beliefs in us. And this isn't me saying that you have to attract the person who is basically like you, but ideally there is some common ground, right? You don't want to, because no two people are the same. So I know that I'm not going to attract someone who's like exactly like me, but someone who has at least some similarities. And so beliefs is another one of them. So for example, I can share some of my beliefs. A lot of people in my industry say that your following doesn't matter. And I can see where they're going with that, but my personal belief is that the number of followers you have does matter. The size of your email list does matter, because there are conversion rates, right? So, for example, say you own a store in the mall. There are X amount of people that go to the mall every weekend. I mean, not right now, but there are X amount of people who go to the mall like every weekend. And then within that number, there are X amount of people who will enter into your store. And then within that amount of people, there are X people who will, browse around your store, right? And then there are people who will walk in and then walk out. And then there are people within that, like browsing people, there are people who will actually like start picking out items to try out. And then within those people who try things out, there are people who will actually purchase. And then within the people that purchase or walk into your store, there are the repeat customers, repeat customers or repeat buyers, right? And so it does matter how much foot traffic is in the mall, because if there's like like very little foot traffic, you're not going to get many customers. I don't know if you guys have ever been inside of like a mall that didn't have like a lot of foot traffic in the area, but I've been in a mall that like people the freeway, it was always backed up because everyone was going to that mall. And then I've also been in malls where it's like where are all the people? So I personally believe that your following size does matter because, again, conversion rate, right? Not every follower is going to see your content. Not everyone not everyone who sees your content is going to buy from you. And not everyone who goes to your sales page is going to buy from you. And so lead generation is really important, right? That's why we're talking about how to generate more leads. So that's one of my beliefs. And apparently this is like a very strong belief. So this is something that I can talk about in my content for people who also have this belief. They're like, yeah, Molly's right. And I want to learn from her, right? Another belief that I can share is you can have a profitable business only selling low ticket digital products. There are a lot of people out there who say that you have to have a high ticket offer, or that you can only sell high ticket offers. But my belief is that you don't have to sell high ticket if you don't want to. You can, but you don't have to, right? So that's something else that I can talk about in my content. And the people that are going to resonate with that are the people that I want to work with. I also work with people who do want to sell high ticket, but for me, I just love selling low ticket. And so while we're on that topic, a lot of people in my industry, um, I think that most people turn into a coach, and I know I kind of am one. But I don't believe that you have to be a coach to have a successful business. Like there are other ways to earn money other than being a coach, right? And so that's something else that I can talk about in my content. And the people that I want to work with are going to resonate with that. And the reason why I share all these beliefs again is to filter people out and to make sure that not only am I generating more leads and sales in my business, but I'm going to be generating the right leads and sales into my business. Another belief that I talk about pretty often in my content is that it's okay to take your time. A lot of people in my industry will say, well, or make you feel like you're doing something wrong if you don't reach six figures within your first 6 months of business. And I have felt like that before. And so I can actually turn this belief into a story that I share as well, of like, hey, I've been there. I've been that person who has tried to impress other people, or felt like, my business wasn't good enough until these milestones that I'm supposed to be hitting. And so the people that can relate to that, they're going to be like, okay, I can definitely relate to that. I'm glad that she can relate to that. So I'm going to tune into her content. And by tuning into my content, they're getting more visibility to me, which means that they're more likely to turn into a lead, right? Which means they're more likely to turn into a client or customer. So I want you to go ahead and write down 3 to 5 of your beliefs, and you can share that in your content, both on your stories and also in your posts. Okay, so number 4, let's now talk about your interests. So again, like this whole presentation, like attracts like, and by sharing your interests, you're going to attract the people who enjoy doing the same things you do, right? So for example, say you like hiking, and then you share hiking content, um, and the people who also enjoy like hiking are going to be like, oh, she also enjoys hiking. And it allows for easy conversation starters. So when they meet you in person, or when they start a conversation with you online, they can be like, hey, I noticed you went on this hike this other day. It allows them to easily start talking to you. Because have you ever been to a party and you didn't know anyone, or maybe you knew one person, but the other person that you know is talking to someone else? It's hard to, well, for me anyway, um, it's hard for me to start a conversation when I don't know things about other people. But for example, say I knew something about someone, I can be like, "Hey, I know that you also enjoy drinking coffee. Have you tried out this coffee shop in town?" So basically, sharing your interests allows the other person to start a conversation with you. Also, again, we just like to buy from people that we know, like, and trust. Okay, so for example, maybe some of your interests, these are some of my interests: going to coffee shops, trying out new restaurants, reading personal development books. So, whenever you're reading, you can share a story about how you're reading, take a few pictures, or maybe when you're done reading, do a few stories talking about what you just read and what you just learned and why you enjoyed reading that book, right? And then someone else could be like, "Hey, I've read that book too," or, "Hey, I noticed I saw that you were reading this book. What did you think about it?" So maybe you don't go into like what you learned. You just post a picture, and then someone else could be like, "Would you recommend this book?" And then that allows you guys to start having a conversation, right? Or maybe one of your interests is traveling and going on vacation. I mean, who doesn't like doing that? Or going on weekend hikes, or bullet journaling, or cooking new recipes. So maybe one way that you can incorporate this into your content is every Friday you do a new recipe, right? So you can do, I don't know, like Friday foodie edition or something. And you can also do polls of, "Hey, do you enjoy, like, which one do you enjoy more, eating in, or no, cooking or ordering in, right?" And then you can also say, like, what type of recipes do you enjoy trying, or how do you like to find out about new recipes? Is it through YouTube? Is it through like a TV show? Or you can even do like, do you enjoy cooking more or baking more? Or you can do like, so one of those question boxes that say like, what recipe should I try next week? So these are different ways for people to, or for you to let other people kind of engage with you, right? So, or maybe you're watching your latest Netflix show, and then you can do like one of those question boxes of, which show should I get into next, or which show are you currently addicted to, or um, have you watched this show, that whatever show you're currently watching, and then do a poll. So those are some different ways that you can incorporate your interests into your content. Or for example, say you're hiking with someone, and you can ask that person like, "Hey, can you take a quick picture of me hiking?" And people really enjoy those candid photos, right? They want to see that you're a person outside of your business, and they can connect with you on a human level. So, here are a few examples of how I incorporate my interests and my lifestyle into my content. And again, you can do this both on Instagram stories and in your posts. So for me, I like to show my food whenever I go out to eat. So I'm like, two of my favorite things. And then I could have done a poll that says, um, do you also enjoy eating noodles? Or, I like eating a lot of code noodles. A lot of people find that weird, but I could say, have you ever tried code noodles before? Yes or no. Or, I enjoy pulling cards, right? So I could say, do you also enjoy pulling oracle cards? Or, something like that. I like to plan my week ahead on the weekends. So for this one, I said journaling, brain dumping, making lists, all the things so I don't feel this way tomorrow. Are you the same way? Right? So there are different ways that we can um, engage their audience. Went for a midday massage, and then I could have done a poll that says, do you also like massages? Or I could have done a question box that said, what's your favorite form of self-care? Or what's one of your favorite things to do in the middle of the day or in the middle of the week, right? Okay, so a few tips. You can make a list of things that you and your ideal clients or customers might be interested in, and then make it a habit to share on your Instagram stories whenever you're doing something. Or again, if you are like at a coffee shop, maybe you ask your friend to take a picture of you, right? So sharing photos of your weekend hike, doing a time lapse of you doing your bullet journal or just journaling. And if you're like, well, Molly, I don't want to be on my phone all the time, I don't want to be on social media all the time, you don't have to. You can take photos, time lapses, videos of you doing that activity, and then uploading it all at once at the end of the day, right? So you're still showing people what you're doing with your life, but you're not stopping your life for social media. So you don't have to, again, stop. You don't have to stop living your life to constantly be active on social. And you can also make a few albums on your phone so that you can easily access them. So if you're writing something to your Instagram stories, you can then use your photos as backgrounds. And I recommend doing that over stock photos because people want to see your real life, right? They want to see what you do and what you're interested in. So go ahead and write down 3 or 5 of your interests, and how you can incorporate that into your content. So a bonus is the next one is photos of you. So this is important because photos of you tell a story, right? They also are another way to build your brand, and it shows other people like who you are, maybe what you're interested in, your values. So I kind of talked about different ways that we can incorporate that into our content. Another thing that we want to be thinking about when it comes to photos is like, again, what kind of message are you sending? Because personal branding is all about how people perceive you to be, right? So what kind of message do you want to be sending to other people? So for example, like when you look at these photos, I want like a friendly, casual, inviting, like down the earth vibe, that person that you can go get coffee with, or that person you can have a glass of wine with, right? So here are some photos from another photo shoot. And pro tip, like you can have your friend or your photographer take it from different angles, right? So for example, this picture right here, it was actually like from here, but if I had different outfits, so for example, this one I'm wearing like a red orange top, and then in this one I am wearing like a sweater. So you can have it taken from different angles. This one is from above. Um, and I just have like different props. So my laptop, my phone, my notebook, daily planner, etc. All of these were taken in the same afternoon. So this one is inside of a coffee shop. This one is like next to one of those doors that open. And then this one is like somewhere where you can sit down, right? So I could do multiple outfits all in one afternoon. So if you feel like you're overwhelmed with taking photos, you can find a photographer to help you out in an afternoon and just take like the whole, like all of your photos for you for the quarter or something. And then all of these photos were taken by friends. And so if you're not ready to work with a photographer, you can also have your friends take photos of you as well. So this is just when my friends and I were having brunch. This is when my friend was like coming over to visit me. And I took pictures of her and she took pictures of me. So that's another way that I can get more photos. And for these 2 photos, I just put on a different sweater, right? So another great way to take multiple photos is by layering and having like different layers. And then these were taken by friends as well. So when you're taking the photos or when someone else is taking the photos, another thing that you want to keep in mind are your brand colors. So if you look at like my presentation, there's a lot of brown, right? I actually based like my brand colors based on I'm wearing, or what I was wearing. So, for example, you can tell that this is kind of like brown tannish. This one is kind of like brown. It's just the filter that makes it look different, but you can tell that it's all kind of a similar vibe, right? Both in the mood that I'm setting, but also in the color scheme. Also, if you guys need to edit your own photos, I use Lightroom, and you can buy a preset or make your own. So you can buy a preset on like Etsy or Creative Market. Or you can also download this other app called Visco, VSCO. If you work with a photographer, they probably have their own style. So that's something that you want to keep in mind of as well when you're looking for a photographer. Look at their portfolio, look at their body of work, and see if that matches the style that you're going for. So a few tips on photos. Write down a few, like a list of words that describe you, your personality, and the vibe that you want to send, right? So for example, mine is friendly, inviting, casual, and down to earth. And I want my photos to represent like that person that you can have coffee with, or that person that you can have a glass of wine with, or cocktail with, right? Um, that person who you feel comfortable talking to, not just about business but also about life and like whatever you're going through, and that person that you know won't judge you based on what you say. So write down like what kind of message you want to be sending with your photos. And then again, take an afternoon to take multiple pictures. And you can like either bring multiple outfits or you can bring layers, right? So, um, if it's winter, you can do different coats or scarves or like a beanie and mittens. And then maybe for each photo you just like take off another layer, or you can like have different ones. There are different ways to make it look like you have multiple outfits. And then also take advantage of the area and using different angles, right? So if you're at a coffee shop, keeping in mind that you can have one against the wall, or one by the window, or one outside. If it's like a fancier coffee shop, maybe they have the outside looks good too. And so just keeping in mind that there are different ways to get multiple types of photos within one location. Personally, what I like to do is I like to create a saved album on my Instagram. So I like to look at other people's brand photos, and then I'll save a bunch of photos and then show it to my photographer and say like, this is the kind of style that I'm going for, this is the kind of vibe that I'm going for. And so your photographer will help you out as well. And it also helps you with like planning your photo shoot of like what you want to wear, and what you want to do or how you want to pose. And the other thing that I want to say about this is that if you have never had your photos taken before, your photos will get better over time. And this is why I also recommend just working with someone who can help you pose and also be your hype person, because it could feel scary taking photos in the beginning. Like I remember when I first started having my photos taken, I used to be that person who would like pose in public, and I'd be like, okay, let me look at the photos. Only like every single time like a car passed by or a person passed by, like a car person that I would never see again. But now I don't do that anymore. And it's because I've taken multiple photos over time and I've just gotten more confident in front of the camera. So um just as a reminder, like everything will get better over time. You just have to start creating the content, and you can start by filling out the things in the workbook. So go ahead and make a saved album in your Instagram and then set a date to take your photos. So that is it for this presentation. I hope it was helpful. If you found it helpful, you can stay connected with me through Instagram. I am over at Molly Hill Studio on Instagram. I also have a podcast where I talk about marketing and things like that. It's called Keep Getting Better with Molly Ho. Um, so yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this masterclass. And if you want to say hi, feel free to DM me on Instagram.